Hello everybody, and just here and welcome back to Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita, aka Sword Sekai, aka Goblin Slayer Cat Girl, aka probably many other names in the fandom as well. Episode 8 is what we're going to be watching today, and it seems like we are headed straight towards another big battle, or perhaps not a big battle, but at least a big duel, a big fight. Battle kind of implies that Fran is gonna be fighting against multiple foes, but now she's going to be fighting against just one. A representative of the blue cats, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that guy is a blue cat, and probably a mercenary or a slave hunter or someone of that sort who was called here to help the lieutenant that we stole a couple of skills from, and not just combat skills, not just skills like abilities, like his ability to see through lies and to lie better, but also his ability to just be a decent human being, or maybe that's a little bit too much. His ability to behave properly, right? His manners, his noble actions, I guess, noble demeanor that he had, all of that has been stolen from him. And now he's reduced to essentially nothing more than a bumbling idiot who was cast aside, cast away from his own family because of his transgressions. Is ugly now, and we all know that ugly means evil, right? And of course, he won't forget and he won't forgive. So he brought some blue cat dude to go after Fran. And apparently, blue cats and black cats are mortal enemies, which is interesting. I have to wonder why. But then again, I also have to wonder why is it just black cats that cannot evolve? Everybody else seemingly can, just not black cats in particular. I don't know. There are still plenty of things wholly and completely unknown about this world, but I believe that we will start learning about them as we go on, as we go forward, and hopefully we will learn maybe a little bit about the cat races in this episode. Maybe not. We'll see. There's also one more person, adventurer of some description, that's going towards the city where we are. She's the like super high ranking adventurer, someone told me in the comments, which might very well be the case. I don't know who she is, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm gonna trust you, and I'm gonna trust that it's not a spoiler of some sort. But yeah, she's probably an adventurer coming back after, I don't know, some excursion, some adventuring being done somewhere else, somewhere far away from the city. And what's gonna be her significance? We don't know. Is she gonna be friend Fran? Is she gonna be a rival to Fran? Is she gonna save Fran? Uh, all of those all of those things are equally possible. So I guess all that remains is for us to actually see what's going to happen, and to do that, you're gonna need subs, of course, and I'm gonna need sound to hear what's going on. And I'm also gonna need your support. Support the channel, please, if you will, monetarily, Patreon, Throne, or not. Completely free. Share my content, spread the word. Costs nothing, helps the channel. And with that, we can start watching episode 8 of Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita in 3, 2, 1, go. Cinnamon latte. Oh, okay. So she was able to take the scabbard off with storage. That's actually amazing. Okay, so just unprompted racism, essentially. Okay, also probably the workaround where he can identify her power, but cannot identify Shishou's power. Same way the demon was able to steal, wasn't able to steal skills bestowed by Shishou. She could use the like calming spell that Ainz has in Overlord. Something to look into for Shishou for sure. Having ways to deal with overbearing emotions is definitely beneficial for someone who like fights for their life on the daily, essentially. You get too angry or you get too scared, and that clouds your judgment, and suddenly you're dead because I don't know, you were distracted by your hatred or what have you. Ainz had the good idea, or rather, the world that Ainz ended up with had a good idea to give him that skill. Then again, in Overlord, it also inhibits his joy, so that's kind of a double edged sword. Yeah, we dealt with him, and now we're gonna deal with him. The villainous blue cat. And he runs, of course. His sword is also special. Somehow. We don't know how, but it is. Yeah, emotions are no bueno in this situation. Interesting. Shishou didn't cast any skills on her, any like protection, any buffs, anything. Okay, now we're going a little bit overboard, I think. I'm honestly not a huge fan of villains who are like, oh yes, I kicked a puppy one day. Ha ha ha. I don't know, just show your villainy instead of talking about it. And of course, motivational speech is enough to completely break through her reservations. That's okay. I was about to say that it's less than I expected. Oh, is that a skill that she has, or explain what just happened? Okay, cutting off the arms, the legs, and the tail, and the ears. Can't forget about the ears. But not higher than her swords. Nope, let Fran do it. Or are we going for some if I kill you, I'm gonna be the same like you? Or kind of anime bullshit? Okay, we're not. Okay. Less talking, more beheading. Although I guess this discussion does make sense to kind of break through Shishou's earthly morals. A moment of growth both for Fran and for Shishou. Okay, thank you. Thank you for disposing of him promptly. I was afraid he's gonna be like, oh, smoke bomb, and he's just gonna run away. But no, he was killed. Now it's your turn. Yes, please. The Guildmaster? Yep. It's a blob of water. I mean, it kind of looks like a slime. Weird moment of levity after what happened on top of that building, but sure. But he somehow slipped away. Okay, explains how he was able to hire the blue cat. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, let's avoid that as long as we can, because I don't think we're gonna be able to avoid that permanently. Knocked out by boobs. What a way to go! Kawaii? Okay. I was expecting more of an Onesama than a mommy, but hey, a breath of fresh air. I mean, at least asking for that is better than just proclaiming it as a fact, so I call progress. Shadow step or something? Bit of a teleportation? Love children in what way though? Because it has like multiple meanings. Don't judge a book by its cover. 58, so probably a teen in elven years. Yeah. She has some ability, magic right eye or something. Or sure, just hearing about it from the others. And the report is that we've no clue what caused it. Or we do have a clue and we know it's a magical sword. And the magic signature matches the one of Fran or something. Not a coincidence at all. What a coincidence, she's also going there. And she's selling cotton candy. Okay, so is she joining the party? Okay, a classic. Running into each other with a toast in her mouth. Should have done that right from the get go. Okay, she has some sort of a shadow step or blink. Because she's a stalker. But just in case, don't let your guard down. Honestly, not surprising at all. Okay, so the titles they get is like a gift from God, not exactly an element of gamification. Interesting. It seems like we're step by step deconstructing that gamification of this world. Only to children. You bunch are too old. A new quest or something? Just barging in like that. Oh, the reward. Hmm. Okay. Exactly. What's the other side of this deal? For accepting a quest, of course. They were trying to find another dungeon to explore anyway, so that's a hard bargain. Five. And shake on it. But I get to choose. Is it also a skill? Hmm. And they want her to prove that she's as strong as her rank would imply, I'm assuming. Okay. Yeah, makes perfect sense. You need permission? Makes sense. Everybody responds to him, after all. And she's coming as well, of course. Of course. We get a new party member. Doesn't matter. She needs to protect her daughter. The urge to protect. Spiders, that's for sure. How strong are they? Well, that remains to be seen. You had to say it. You had to say it. Oh, payment in advance? I see an opal. Bunch new skills then. That's a bunch. This storage that keeps everything at the temperature is amazing. Yeah, it's kind of a core just reading them. Yep. But it leveled up from 5 to 6, so we might be able to summon something cool. But, oh no. Oh, bit of a duel. Not entirely expected, but not entirely unexpected either. That she would want to try out Fran's strength, I'm assuming. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on, especially with the other adventurers also watching. Probably a form of like skill assessment. Or hell, Fran challenged her. If I win, you piss off. If I lose, then I'm gonna call you mommy. Hmm. This episode gives me the distinct feeling that they crammed like 2 chapters worth of stuff into it. And probably even like, I don't know, the last chapter of one of the volumes and the first chapter of another volume. Because of the disparity between the first half and the second half. I could be entirely mistaken though. And also, it feels to me like they're starting to rush ever so slightly. It doesn't bother me yet, but the monstrous rank A adventurer. The DotterCon girl, I'm assuming. Okay, so let's pause it and let's go through it again. Shall we? I need to get used to using my phone as the Steam Deck. Oh, damn, it's dirty. I'm gonna have to wash this case. Or buy myself a new one. It's already. It was transparent, now it's slightly yellow. What sunlight and just atmosphere does to cheap Chinese plastic, eh? Now it's falling apart. Ah. But I refuse to buy a Steam Deck. I refuse to buy a Stream Deck. Way too expensive. Okay. Black cat, blue cat. This is cool. I love how she uses storage to store the scabbard. To take the scabbard off and to store it. Amazing use of it. So incredibly imaginative use of storage. I've been reading a lot of isekais. I've been watching a lot of isekais. And storage is almost never used in any imaginative way. Almost always it's used just as storage, as the name implies. You put things in there so that you don't have to keep them in bags or in your pockets or wherever, right? Very rarely do you see storage used to take the scabbard of your sword, for example, or to freeze something in time. I think besides this one, why am I salivating so much? Is it because of cinnamon? Probably. Damn. Okay. Not counting this one, I think I've seen maybe like two more isekais where the fact that storage freezes things in time uh, being used as an actual, maybe not necessarily plot device, but you know, actually put to use and actually mentioned by name that hey, storage freezes things in time. Um, in a couple of cases, I think it was also to store food, essentially freeze the food with ice magic and then throw it into the storage so it remains fresh and unspoiled and frozen. And I think one manga I read, can't remember the title. Was it the manga or was it the light novel? I don't know. But the point is, storage was used. There was the whole thing with like resurrection magic, that after the body decays past certain point, the soul can no longer return to it because the body will, you know, when the soul arrives at the body and the body is rotted and disintegrating, then the soul won't be able to animate it. So someone put like the body of their teammate in storage so that they can bring them to a healer, to like a temple in town in a big city and resurrect them, something along those lines. Again, I can't remember where exactly it was, but that was an imaginative use. I also vaguely recall one use of storage where it was used to, don't remember, either release water or a bunch of rocks or a bunch of soil or something of that kind out of it to like cover enemies or drown them or something along those lines, like throwing rocks from the sky using storage, something along those lines. But yeah, you very rarely see the use for that, and this is cool, this is amazing. It's such a small, tiny little thing that she uses it to take away her scabbard, but it's great. I love it. Blue cats deceived the black cats and stripped them of all dignity and rights, and then started selling black cats as cheap, free um, workforce, aka slaves. Identify power. We again encounter this seemingly limitation to all the skills, abilities that work on abilities of another, where they only see the abilities and the level and the skills and the statistics of Fran and not the ones that are bestowed upon her by Shishou. Though when it comes to level, I think she actually is 25. She's no higher than that. Shishou doesn't like give her a part of his level or anything. But yeah, his mistake checking just the level and nothing more. Gyuran the Legion Slayer, great hero of the Rose War. OP, OP, OP. His sword. Enchanted Phantom Ogite Blade. Mana Conductivity B. Skills Phantom Strike. Phantom Strike, I'm assuming something like you swing the sword and another strike follows after, kind of sort of deal. Or like that one sword user, the one who was both a swordsman and had a second skill. One of the enemies in Overlord that turned his sword wielding arm invisible with illusion and created a fake arm with a fake sword, also using illusion. So he was striking differently than his illusory arm was. That was amazing. That was cool. So maybe something like that is this Phantom Strike. We don't know. Stronger than the Demon Sword. That's interesting. Hmm. Blue cats really just look like demons. They don't look. even like civilized creatures the way black cats do. They're very, very feral looking and feral behaving. I don't think they even wear clothes. Interesting how within the race of cats you have all those sub races that are so vastly different. You have very humanoid black cats who are different from humans in just their ears and tails, and eyes. They have vertical pupils, and then you have blue cats who are just anthro, essentially, just full on furries. Of course, Fran is scared, a little bit angry, mostly just scared of essentially what amounts to a natural predator for black cats. Uh, it's hmm, it's kind of weird to see that nothing is being done about it, though. Right? Like, I know that Fran herself is paralyzed with fear, maybe, but it's weird to see Shishou not casting any skills, for example, right? Or, I don't know, some, even just a buff or a shield, or, something simple like that. Nothing. I understand from like a storytelling perspective why it's done. It's to bring Fran down, right? She faces her mortal enemy, and that brings her down to the pits of despair. But then Shishou raises her out of these pits. She raises herself out of these pits of despair, and she becomes stronger for it. And then she goes on to the offensive, and then she attacks. Right? I understand why it's done, but from the in world perspective, it's kind of odd. Mm. And it's going on and on and on about how, oh, I cut off its ears, and then I cut off his arms, and then I cut off his legs, and then I cut off his tail, and oh ho 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 ho, it was so delightfully devilish of me to do. Again, I understand why it's being done to establish this random dude as a villain, as a black character, but I I'm not a fan of this procedure, so to speak. Right? It's very common. I noticed it's surprisingly common to have a villain who just appears, and since we never had any time spent with them, we don't know just how villainous they are. So they go onto that big speech that, oh, I'm eating live puppies for dessert and I kicked a toddler. And you know what? I saw grass with a sign that says do not tread, and then I stomped on this grass. Mwahahahaha. Right? It's a very cheap and simple and easy way to make someone who just appears, who we know nothing about, into a villain. Now, I understand that you don't always have the ability to build a villain throughout the entire series, right? The way some series do. I don't know, Berserk and Griffith, for example, right? Griffith is built throughout the whole series, from what I heard. I know that Griffith is like a recurring character in Berserk, and I know vaguely that he's a villain. She's a villain. He's a villain. Never read Berserk, just to be clear. So maybe a better idea, maybe a better example. I don't know. Where was a villain that was built up throughout the series? Um, The only two examples that come to mind are Overlord, but it's Ainz who's being built up as the villain, and Yojo Senki, but it's Tanya who's being built up as a villain. No other series that would come to mind necessarily. Hmm. No, I'm kind of blanking. But there are series that just spend some time with the villain and they build them up. We are shown that the villain is kicking puppies. We are shown that after they have an argument with the protagonist, they walk through the grass, despite the plague saying do not tread on grass being there, right? We are shown that they sit in their house, and through the window we see how they're eating live toddlers for dinner, right? And that builds them up slowly. So we grow slowly to hate them as a character, not as a not that they're badly written, but they're written well, and because of that we hate them. This is something you do when you don't have the time to build up your villain. But that also makes the impact a bit less, because it straight away shows us the villain is disposable. It shows us straight away that the villain is just going to be defeated, if not now, then in the next episode at the latest. Because if you introduce a new villain, and that villain is supposed to be persistent and recurring, then that means you will have the time to build them up, so you don't have to go with that exposition of their villainy. But since you start with the exposition of their villainy, that means you didn't have the time to build them up, and you don't exactly plan to build them up either, so they're just a stepping stone essentially. That was a long tirade, so let's continue. Have you ever had the joy of hearing the crunch of bones still wet with life? How much more villainous can you get, honestly? You're a Black Cat adventurer who's going to evolve. Look at this weakling, he can't beat you. And indeed, he cannot. Blocked. And there was that, like, blink moment. Okay, how many did you kill? I lost track after 10, so I don't have to worry about killing you. I like this ice. Fran is going psycho mode right now. And this seems very off. That they're just, struggling, clashing swords and, clashing beams almost. And then it's a frame, and Fran has his sword with his arm cut off. And yeah, it doesn't like register super easily, super quickly. You gotta like pause here and take it in what just happened, which might have been the intention, but during the runtime of this scene, I was constantly asking myself, what the fuck did just happen? Did Fran just use blink or something, or what exactly happened right now? Because it was completely unprompted and telegraphed, which is on one side it's good because you don't want to telegraph your attacks. It always seems weird when one character does like a stealth attack. They're sneaking behind the enemy, and then they're like, thunder slash of lightning! And why the fuck were you sneaking in the first place if you're just gonna call out your attack like that? So this works. This works, but it needs some time to sink in that she is indeed holding Guren, I don't know, Guren's hand that's holding the sword. Cool. Yeah, now you can see it clearly. But as the scene was going, you couldn't, so it was like, oh, what the fuck just happened? Also, interesting detail, live matter can be stored inside of the storage, but it cannot be attached to a live being. Which makes sense because they're storing like meat inside, so sure, makes sense, but it's interesting. And also, a cool detail that she wasn't able to break the sword. She wasn't able to like slice through it, so she just cut off his arm. If you can't break the sword, break the arm that wields it. I like it. What can I say? I do really like it. This change in Fran, though, is surprising. Not entirely unwelcome, but surprising in that it doesn't seem like it's Shishou giving her any like skills. He didn't give her blink or shadow step or whatever. It seems to me that it's Fran and Fran's power alone who's doing that. I might be wrong in this assumption. Perhaps it is Shishou doing that and we just don't know it. Perhaps because of adaptation woes and it was done better in the light novel. But if it's actually Fran, then it shows character growth on her own personal level. I can't put living things in the pocket dimension, but if I catch you into materials, then I can put you in there. Makes perfect sense. Her face there is in that one scene it was cool because it's like a face of super anger. Here it's a face similar to how characters in like comedy manga or wherever do, or comedy anime do, like, no, I didn't do it, don't look at me, oh no, there's nothing on my mouth, I didn't eat your ice cream, right? It seems like this kind of a face, so it's kind of taking me out of it, but I get the intention. Mm, cutting off his arms, cutting off his legs. I love this guillotine that she does here. And this is also a phase that, again, I get the intention, but it's often associated with a comedic moment, right? The main heroine, I don't know, the main protagonist is, due to some unforeseen events, he's naked in the room of our main girl. And then she enters the room and he's laying on the floor because he slipped on a banana peel, because of course he did, because we're watching a rom-com. And she's looking at him with, like looking at human trash. And that's the expression she has. That's the expression they always have, looking down upon the main character like they're human trash. And it's always built for comedic effect. And what follows is a slap or a zoom out of the room, and you just see the boarding house or whatever, and it's jumping, and there's puffs of smoke. You know what I mean. So it's my first associations, and it's kind of hard to break that association and associate this face with a face of cold-blooded killer, essentially, which is what Fran is experiencing right now, which is what she became right now. And now her face is unchanged, normal, rather. If you let guys like him live, the last remaining black cats will die out. She's right. You're gonna kill him, then use me to do that. Where's the guillotine? The arm guillotine is something I really do like very much. There goes the foot. Here comes the arm guillotine. I thought for a moment it's animated on ones, but no, it's animated on twos. I like it. I really like the use of her cool use of the broadsword. She's not just slicing and stabbing, but she just, you know, stabs it into the ground and uses the leverage to guillotine his arm off, like guillotine for paper. Very similar looking, by the way. I like it. I really do like her combat style that doesn't just rely on swinging the sword. Now, kind of hard to call it combat, but you know what I mean. This is cool. This I very much like. This battle is not just a moment of growth for Fran to get her resolve of sorts, but also a moment of growth for Shishou, who's constantly had the earthly sensibilities, right? Killing is wrong. You shouldn't kill. You shouldn't steal. You shouldn't hurt others. But now he's realizing it's a different world. I shouldn't force my old world's morals onto her. Because in my world, things like, I don't know, ginger people hunting down blonde people, it's not a thing. So I don't know the struggle. I don't know the struggle and the feelings with like my entire race or sub race or people who share my hair color being genocided by people of a different hair color. I don't know what it's like, so I can't judge her by those morals. I can't force my own morals onto her. It's always an interesting discussion to have, and not only in the context of different worlds, although kinda sorta, it's mostly in the context of different worlds. It always sucks when you have a character from a different world, from Earth, come to a fantasy world, and they're like, "Oh no, killing is wrong. If we kill him, then we're going to be just like him." No, you're in medieval. You're in not medieval, not Europe. It's kill or be killed. It's as simple as that. You don't let brigands go alive, because if you let them leave, they will set up an ambush and they will gather couple dozen more brigands and they will attack you again. Or if not you, they will attack other innocent people. It's harsh, but it is what it is in worlds like this. And it's always interesting to see if the character brought here from Earth is going to go by the morals of the old world, or are they going to adjust to the morals of the new world? Most often, unsurprisingly and disappointingly, they keep the morals of their old world. It's not entirely, you know, surprising, as I said, unsurprisingly, but also it's fun and fresh to see characters who are like, you know what? It's a different world. It's different morals, different sensibilities. Let's follow what these people have been doing for hundreds of years because they probably have a good idea of what to do. Better than me, who's been in this world for like a week, right? And it's also an interesting thing of the sensibilities of our world and the other world. Uh, I don't want to bring it to like real world discussion, but in the real world, it's also important, and not many people do that for some reason, to distinguish between the like sensibilities and morals of the years, decades past, and the sensibilities and morals of today. There's a lot of discussion going on around that, and most people are like, "Oh no, the thing right now is evil." So of course, when people were doing that 2,000 years ago, that was also evil. Different times, different morals, different sensibilities, and it's the same with different worlds. And I've probably been talking way too much about that, so let's continue. We're not even halfway through the episode, or are we? No, we're not even halfway through, and it's already been almost an hour. Jesus Christ. I'm glad I can help shoulder a little bit of her burden. That's cool. That's the correct and proper approach. I'm not gonna stop her from doing what she needs to do, but I can help her share some of the burden. And that's not even a beheading. She sliced off the top of his head from the bottom of his head. That's cool. I don't know why, but I've always been a sucker for like slashing the mouth through like the jaw, or grabbing the bottom jaw and ripping it out, or things like that. I don't know why. It's somehow cooler than just beheading. Well, I'm on someone's list right now. And taking him to the storage for materials. Can he be disassembled? I wonder, can you make like a blue cat pauldrons, blue cat skin pauldrons? That'd be cool. Wear his skull as a pauldron. Yuran got cut to pieces and disappeared. Indeed, he's not a zombie. Barely. He's barely not a zombie. And this is what I mean by it seems like those were two different chapters, or perhaps two different volumes, because from a moment of, very profound discussion of morals, discussion of sensibilities of different worlds, all that talk about genocide and whatnot. We're like, oh, it's not a slime. Those spirits are cuter than slimes. How dare you? Oh, my cute, cute spirits. Oh, how I fucking love spirits. Oh, right? It's a bit of a disparity. I don't know. Perhaps there was more time to like thaw out after what transpired in the light novel. Perhaps it was again different chapters or different volumes. I don't know. But this is a bit of a tonal whiplash. Yeah, he needs to be arrested. I'm sure you don't want to be dragged into the affairs of high houses either. You had to say it. Or rather, of course they don't want to be dragged into the affairs of high houses. Doesn't mean they won't be. They probably will be. I mean, sooner or later, every isekai protagonist ends up in the court of the local noble or king or whoever. It's just a thing that happens. There's no escaping that. I'm your mommy. Ha ha ha, mommy kink. Mm-hmm. A-rank adventurer. And we see her stats. Protector of Children, Dungeon Raider, Dragon Slayer, Wind Mage, Monster Exterminator, A-rank Adventurer, Elemental Blade 7, Throwing Weapons 8, Whip Arts 10, Scourge Arts 5, I'm assuming like hexes and debuffs, Whip Mastery 10, Scourge Mastery 6, Storm Magic, Magic Resistance, Wyvern Whisker Cloak. A lot of whiskers must have been used to weave that cloak. Hydra Hide Armor, Venom Gecko Mantle, Mad Eye Bull Boots, Circlet of Sacrifice. Mana Sense 6, Spirit Manipulation Dragon Slayer. Enhanced Storm Magic Mana Manipulation, unique skill, the Spirit's Undying Favor. Interesting. Thunderbird Feather, Barrier Ring, Shock Owl Feather, Darts. Anything else? Not really. She's strong. And she's following us everywhere, because of course she is. Because she's a Dotarkon. Where she took care of children who had no family to care for them. After the preview of the next episode, I have to wonder. Well, not necessarily a preview of the next episode, just a stinger at the end of the episode. A flash forward, if you will. I have to wonder, is she actually genuinely a good person? She did get the title Protector of Children, and we know that they are bestowed by gods, apparently. So that's cool, first and foremost, that we are dismantling the gamification of this world. That it's not that, I don't know, the game systems gives you those titles as achievements. It's gods. A god is like, hey, yo, cool, you're really fucking good at gathering herbs. I'm gonna give you herb gatherer. There you go. You're an herb gatherer now. That's a cool system. I like it. Someone mentioned in the comments, explained that the whole gamification thing is just how Shishou perceives things to make it easier for him to comprehend what's going on, because it's a parallel to games in our world, so that's how he sees it. But all in all, those things aren't necessarily gamified. So it's not like everybody has a numerical amount of mana in them. They might have a lot of mana, or a little mana, or very much mana, for example, and they know more or less how much they have. And when someone casts sense mana on them, they know that, oh, they have this much mana, and I have this much mana, so they're probably stronger. But in Shishou's eyes, it's translated into numbers, from what I can tell. So it makes sense that the gamification wouldn't be like prevalent in the world, but it's still nice to see direct and proper examples of dismantling it, of dismantling that gamification. All I'm missing right now is for someone to say that, oh, I can use, oh, my fireballs are really strong, instead of saying, Shishou sees fireball level 6, and that person just sees it, oh, my fireballs are really strong. Or someone casts, I don't know, skill vision on Shishou, and they're like, oh, your skill mastery is very high. Because if they say, oh, you have level 7 of skill mastery, then all that argument about gamification being just something that Shishou has is kind of going, straight to trash, because it doesn't seem to be the case if that's the case. But yeah, that's a lot of whataboutism. So let's leave that. That was how she earned the title Protector of Children. Yeah, I was wondering, with that stinger at the end of the episode, that was what I was what I wanted to talk about in the first place. Is she actually a protector of children, or is it that she has that orphanage for some nefarious reasons? I don't know. Witcher 3 came to my mind immediately. The not Hearts of Stone, the other DLC, the one in Toussaint, Blood and Wine, where that one vampire lady had an orphanage as a blood bank, essentially. I wonder if that's the case, but I don't think it is. She seems to be way too simple of a character to have those like layered malicious intents. And if it is gods who bestow the title, then she wouldn't probably have the title of a protector of children, right? Also, how can we tell that she has a title of protector of children? Ah, sorry. Is it something that, I don't know, a deity just announces, or can you use a skill that's like, let's check out what titles she has, and those titles just pop into your head? Probably. Or maybe some magic of like a guild card that lists your titles, things. I don't know. Amanda the rank A. Yeah, you can get crystals if you do the quest, bit of haggling. And for 5 crystals, we can go to the dungeon to prove your worth, which is cool, which I like. I very much do like the detail about her having to prove her worth, because those who were there with her in the Goblin dungeon know what she's capable of, but she doesn't have any witnesses of her killing that demon or killing the dungeon master. There is nothing left behind by them. Note, there isn't a gem that would prove that she actually killed the greater demon, for example. Yeah, it would have been a different thing if she got to that greater demon fight with a bunch of other adventurers, because they can vouch for her. But she went there alone. Hell, she cleared like half the dungeon alone. So it makes sense that people would require her to undergo some other trials that prove she's actually that rank and not a different one. People might also be downplaying it, right? Oh, it probably wasn't that big of a deal, that dungeon. It probably wasn't that high of a level. If she cleared it, I mean, who's saying it was a greater demon? It was probably an imp. Let's be honest here, she doesn't look like the kind that would take down a greater demon, right? An imp? Maybe, and hey, that's an achievement for her, right? For someone at her level, taking down an imp, that's impressive, but shouldn't warrant rank D, right? And that kind of a talk throughout the city, probably. And of course, rumors around him that he's a lolicon, which is probably the actual and true intention behind giving her this quest, instead of waiting until she proves herself naturally. But I mean, it's for the better. Fran and Shishou were looking for another dungeon to conquer to level up and gather some gems anyway, so yeah, an opportunity presents itself. And you can go into Ulmut. Most of the adventurers signed are men. I'm going with her. Of course she is. Fucking stalker. Bunch of crystals, fortified hermit crab, trident shark, sea lion, red colossus, and old yeti. And the skills we got from it are, yeah, rank up, a bunch more stuff. Uh, Attack grew, MP grew, HP grew, skill points, skill slots points, everything went up. I love how casually she's just taking out the ice cream of the storage. I love the casualness of it. That's another thing that's like cool about those storages in rather that's a cool detail about storages that I sometimes see but sometimes not. Sometimes storage is just a regular part of life, right? Oh, you forgot your beanie. It's cold and you need a beanie, so you reach into the storage, you pull it out, and that's it, completely casually. You found a cool rock. Oh, let's pick it up and throw it into the storage, or maybe even just pick it up using storage. Open the portal to storage on that cool pebble, and it's just gonna get sucked in. Other times, storage is like a super special thing. Open storage, and the portal appears, and it's something you very rarely use for some reason. Storage, I like it more when it's used completely casually for any and all purposes, right? Especially if it has some cool mechanics to it, like filtering. There was, I think, one manga that I read. Was it an isekai? I don't remember. Again, don't remember what manga that was. I've read so many fantasy and isekai mangas that I've lost track. But storage was used there to for a dude to clean himself up. No, to dry himself up. He was all wet because he went swimming or something, and he used the storage to store just the water of the surface of himself, and just the water was stored there, and he wasn't. And that was cool. That was a great use of storage. I'm gushing over the storage, but it's great. I really like how storage is done in the series. That's a lot, and we're slowly approaching the point where I no longer feel like reading all of it. Swimming, current manipulation, berserk, increased weight, cold resistance, toxicology, frost resistance, dark magic, one bow arts, terror, club arts, mind reading, short bow arts, longbow arts. Okay, swimming, current manipulation will be useful when we need to fight in water. Increased weight to not be thrown around, to increase artificially the weight of yourself. Frost resistance, general useful club arts, perhaps the sword while inside of a scabbard counts as a club. Mind reeling is going to be useful. Shortbow, I don't know, beast training. Are we going to get a companion? Possibly. Knife arts, leather working, mana engineering, mana barrier, shadow magic, alchemy, coordination, trap sense. Probably gonna be useful for dungeoneering. Enhanced dark immunity, hardened skin, wind magic, harden for blade arts, blade mastery, elemental blade 1, summon minion 6, status element resistance, earth magic 5, poison magic 3. The typesetters didn't even feel like inserting commas were necessary. They just dumped everything in one place. Gonna be a pain managing them all. Gonna be a pain reading them all, let me tell you. Let me tell you what. And yeah, we can summon minions. That's gonna be relevant because we put attention to that. And we're fighting Mummy. And the other adventurers just look at it. And that makes me believe that they're just witnessing what's going on. They aren't, just watching Fran getting killed. They're like, oh, cool, a duel. Let me grab some popcorn. You want a beer? I got some cold beer in my storage. Right? That kind of thing. Or maybe they needed convincing that Fran really is as strong as she says. Because they seem like this was like hard-assed, battle-hardened types who are like, oh, a little girl rank D, I don't believe that. I'm not going to work with her until she proves her worth. And that's how Fran is going to prove her worth by fighting with an A rank adventurer, and the A rank adventurer is saying, hey, yo, she's actually as good as she says. And they're gonna be fine with that. Probably. I don't know. Mm, Edie, Edie, Edie. Let my tears be my sword. Uh, First immediate thought, Seikon no Quasar, where they were using blood as swords, for example. That was a cool series. Got 2 seasons. Kinda wish it got a third one. Highly recommend it. Very edgy, bordering on hentai, but most often those hardest going scenes are Yuri. So hey, that's something. At least for once, it's not a borderline hentai show that only has heterosexual romance in it and heterosexual scenes. Regardless, no, no, no. I have my poor man's stream deck now. There we go. There we go. That was episode 8 of Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita, and I did like it overall. Like, sure, I did have some gripes with it, but in the grand scheme of things, those were fairly minor gripes and only about some elements of this episode. Overall, it was good. It gave a lot of character growth to Fran, it gave a lot of character growth to Shishou. The rest, maybe not entirely forgettable. Not forgettable, actually. The second half was just a setup. That's how I'm looking at it. The first half was a climax of that little arc of that lieutenant, and during that arc, in the last moments of that arc, both Fran and Shisho grew as characters, and the second half of this episode was a setup for the next episode and a setup for the next arc. Feels kind of odd having a climax of a previous arc and the setup for the next arc in the same episode in this proportion. Usually, when there is a setup for the next arc, it's like the very last moments, right? The main character cuts down the enemy, cuts down the villain, and everybody's celebrating. Then the ending plays, and after ending, there's a scene of, I don't know, a child crawling out of the corpse of the villain and laughing maniacally, for example, right? Or something along those lines. That bit of a cliffhanger setup. This was half an episode of a climax and half an episode of a setup. I don't mind it, it just feels off because it's usually not done this way. Besides that, uh, yeah, overall I did enjoy it. A couple of annoyances, but nothing particularly major. I don't know how to feel about the pacing. It does feel a little bit rushed. I feel like there were a couple of moments that could have used a little bit more time to sink in, and they probably had that time in the light novel, in the source material, but they weren't allowed to have that time here in the adaptation. But I'm just gonna say adaptation woes and accept that because it's normal, honestly, for adaptations to have this kind of an issue. Pacing doesn't bother me yet. Now, to be clear, I'm just noticing that it's getting a little bit faster than it used to be. Not to the point of being a problem, but to the point of being somewhat noticeable. Or perhaps you will correct me and say that the same exact pacing was there in the light novel, and the anime didn't skip anything, didn't miss anything. I don't know. Tell me how it looked. How was the source material different? How was it better? As long as it's not spoilers about what's going to happen in the future, I will gladly listen and hear and read any clarifications, any, you know, anything that wasn't there shown in the anime but was there in the source material. I would love to hear that. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it. I don't think I have anything more to say. So maybe you guys have to say something to say about what wasn't there in the anime, or what did you think of this episode? My reaction, my theories. Leave your comments down below there. No spoilers, please. I beg of you. If you do want to talk spoilers, Discord here, also in the description. join it. There is a channel for Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita, which you can join and talk spoilers to your heart's content, because you can use spoiler tags and thus I'm not gonna see what you're saying. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases, out of schedule as they are, but they are and they will keep coming out, of not only Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita, but also Gundam Witch from Mercury, Symphogear Axis, the management of Novice Alchemist, although I'm kind of behind on that, Arcanites, Prelude to Dawn, as well as a somewhat of a veteran player. You might be interested in my perspective, maybe, maybe not, who's to say. I also stream sometimes, so you might want to click the bell to be notified of that. Recently been streaming Stultifera Navi, the event in Arcanites, and I'm also streaming other gachas like Alchemy Stars and Blue Archive, when they have some interesting events. And also Madoka Magica, I'm gonna be recording my reaction, my commentary to the Rebellion movie soon-ish, so you might want to stick around for that. And again, click the bell, subscribe to be notified. What's next? Support the channel if you want monetarily. Patreon, throne links in the description below. On Patreon for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonals like Symphogear, like Madoka, and for just $1 you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits, and there are also other tiers. On Throne you can pitch in directly towards my purchase of new gear, new software, stuff like that, so head over to the links in the description. And if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, it's completely free. Share my content, spread the word. It does help the channel an awful lot, I guarantee that, and it costs you absolutely nothing. So with all of that out of the way, I think that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers. No. There we go. And this is the credits, and you can be one of the credit people if only such is your desire.